members, welcome staff and welcome to the gallery. I declare the May meeting of Council open. First, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout the Barossa region and recognise their continued connection with the land, waters and culture, and pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. We have a leave of absence from Councillor Troop and we have an apology from Councillor Angus. Someone move the apology, Councillor Hearn and Councillor De Vries. So the apology for Councillor Angus. All those in favour? Carried. Minutes of the previous meeting for confirmation. The council meeting held on Tuesday the 19th of April 2022 at 9 a.m. Moved Councillor Apic. Seconded Councillor De Vries. Questions? All those in favour? Carried. No matters arising from those minutes. We'll move to the notice of motion. This was a notice of motion.
Question on notice, Mr. Question on notice.
Oh, question on notice, sorry. Question with or without notice. And the question on notice was Councillor Schilling, the facilities master plan on page 5. There's a recommendation there. The question was, do all facilities have master plans and where can I view their facilities master plan? And there's been a comment provided. Any questions? Someone like to move the recommendation? Councillor De Vries. Seconded Councillor Boothby. All those in favour? Carried. Page 6 is the Mayor's report. Any questions? Councillor Wee-Smith.
Could you just provide us with a bit more detail regarding your meeting with the Tourism Minister, Zoe Beddison? Just obviously.
Who was that? Just a bit louder, please, sorry.
The meeting with the Minister for Tourism and Multicultural Affairs, Zoe Beddison. Can you just provide us with some more detail around that and what that was about?
Yeah, that was a meeting that was it was arranged. The Minister arranged the meeting and just gave us an opportunity to catch up with her at the visitor centre. And so we had a tour of the visitor centre and talked about some of the work that was going on with regard to the big project. We did go out and have a look at the car park, I think, and then we went down to the Oval. And then I did have lunch. She invited me to go and have lunch with her. So we just talked about a number of opportunities that Council has been involved in and probably some of our future aspirations. We touched on things in relation to obviously the tourism potential, the merging of Barossa tourism and Barossa Australia and some of those things associated with that. So it was a good opportunity to catch up and I welcomed the invitation to spend time with her.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd just like to point out that I also attended the service on the Anzac Day service at Tanunda. So whether that's I noticed Councillor De Vries in there, he officially there, but I was also there as a councillor and a member.
Councillor, thank you for that. I wasn't there, so I didn't know that you weren't there.
Yes.
But I mainly just identified those that was playing the roofs. But thank you for that. Okay.
Move the right report they received.
Okay. Moved Councillor De Vries and seconded Councillor Wee-Smith. All those in favour? Carried. Members, we have the consensus agenda. Is there any items that any member wish to have withdrawn? Councillor Wee-Smith.
Item 4.7.7.
Item 4.7.7. Any other items? What page was that one on?
66. 66.
66. Any other items? Not. Someone move the consensus agenda, be moved councillor Boothby and seconded councillor Johnston. All those in favour? Thank you. Councillor Wee Smith, your item 4.7.7 on page 66.
Thank you. No questions for this one. I just wanted to pull this out of the consensus agenda and highlight it to the chamber formally. Our success at the Landcare Awards with the Barossa Bush Gardens. And formally thank everybody involved. I know that you were able to be there to accept the award, but we have many volunteers who contribute to that success.
Yep, no, thank you. No, it was, and the deputy mayor and the chairman of the Bush Gardens was also in attendance, along with Pam from the garden. So, yep, okay.
I'll
Would you
move that.
move that?
Yep.
Seconder, councillor Boothby. All those in favour? Carried. As always, recognition of our volunteers and for all their recognition for our volunteers and all their years of service is a very special time within our council meeting. And 15 years of service. Maury, come up here, sir. Come up to the main stage here. Good morning. Maury, you've done 15 years of service and you've been a volunteer at the Resource Centre, commencing volunteering in the community transport scheme as a driver, and you was instrumental in the setup of the Volunteers Barossa Lighton office and has been an integral member of the Volunteer Resource Centre since 2009. So, Maury, thank you for your wonderful contribution over those years. You obviously enjoyed it. You kept on coming back day after day, didn't you?
That's right.
Yeah, so it was a great experience, and on behalf of council, we sincerely appreciate what you've contributed, and I'm sure the community also stands with me and says thank you very much personally. So well done.
Thank you.
Bill Plush, Bush Gardens. Bill, you've also contributed 15 years as well.
Yep.
You was very much a quiet achiever. Are you still quiet? Never. Okay. Well, you've found your voice over those 15 years, haven't you? You've been a huge asset to the Bush Gardens. You were instrumental in the caltrop weed removal and involved in many other community groups. So once again, on behalf of council, congratulations. Sincerely thank you for your valued contribution and the Bush Gardens from a bare paddock to what it is today. So, and you've been part of that whole journey. So congratulations and well done.
Thank you very much.
David Mitchell. How you going, David?
You can go in, that's all right.
Very well. David, 20 years. Does it feel like 20 years?
Oh, not really. I do a lot of other volunteering besides that, so that's the last one I've done.
This is, you just throw this in your spare time, eh? Yeah, okay, no. Well done, community transport, and you have contributed 1,400 community hours, adding up to all the kilometres of driving around the world. So you've been on a world tour. How'd you enjoy that?
I enjoyed the other ones better.
Did you? So look, on behalf of council, David, thanks for your wonderful contribution, and I'm absolutely certain the people that you've transported over those many years appreciate your wonderful contribution, and I suppose some of the conversations you've had in the car have been very enlightening to you, haven't they?
Interesting.
Okay, good on you. Thanks very much. Bernie Wallace. Bernie, come on up. "20 years. And you've driven around the world twice.
Twice.
What was it like the second time?
Oh, you said it makes you sound good.
Yeah, there you go. So Bernie, terrific. So, 2,000 volunteer hours. So, wow.
See, when I moved here about 21 years ago, and I didn't want to live in a community without giving something back. Because I'm ageing in this community and I'll be drawing on it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, well done. Well, I think you've got a fair bit of credit there.
Yeah.
So draw it down.
Draw it down.
So congratulations to you. Well done.
Thank you.
Levine Feckner. Levine. You can come. Oh no, this is which way? Do you want a step or a ramp?
A ramp.
Okay, come around this way.
Hello, Joe.
25 years.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah, and they tell me you're a bit of a prankster and you've got a bit of humour and you love a bit of fun, do you? You're a bit of
Yes, I do.
you're a fun girl, are you?
Well, I like to sell Barossa to the local people or the visitors that come in, and so
No,
create the humour.
no, well done, and we really appreciate that front of counter activity in our visitor centre and for all those years too. Well done. What are you going to
Thank
do
you.
now? You're still going to carry
I'll
on?
continue, yeah.
Good on you. Well,
I have my moments, but
Do you?
I'll continue.
no,
Yeah.
okay, well, we all have moments, don't we? So congratulations to you on behalf of council, and I know the staff really do appreciate your presence within the building. It
Thank you.
sends a little bit of a vibe around the place.
Yeah.
So good on you. Congratulations.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh gosh, Steve Kaisler. Come on up, Steve.
Has anyone got an organ?
Steve, congratulations.
Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, I know you took the job here, but I think you just wanted to get close to this little project, didn't you? It had nothing to do with the job, did it?
Had all to do with you.
Oh. Steve, in 1997, you commenced as a member of the Tanunda Soldiers War Memorial Committee. The committee changed its name to the Barossa Regional Gallery Management Committee, and you've been the chair for a long, long time, and still the chair. So, Steve, it is a wonderful attraction to our community, and I hear wonderful words of praise and admiration of what's been achieved there in the hall and what that's brought to our region. And following on from Councillor Wee Smith's question, I failed to mention that I did go up to the institute or the hall, the gallery, and just so happened Steve was having his lunch, and so he hopped on the organ and gave a great rendition. So, and it was the first time the minister had ever been there, and really was fascinated by it. So once again, you put yourself in the right place at the right time. Well done. Graham Stratton.
Graham's an apology, Mayor.
Well, Graham has done some enormous work at the Angus Recreation Park. Graham is the chairman of the Angus and Rec Park Community Advisory Group. Is also hands-on with the Angus Cricket Club, managing the facility and the cricket pitch as the curator. So Graham's done 40 years of service at the Anguston, which is an enormous contribution to within our region. He's been actively involved in the big project with the development of everything that's gone on at the Angus Park. So we will pass on Council's appreciation for that valued contribution. Murray Klingner. Murray. There's a bit of rubbish on here. It says 50 years. You must have started when you were 10 years old.
I'm older than you think.
Is that right? Well, you carry it well. Murray has volunteered for many years, 50 years, at the Anguston Recreation Community Advisory Group. Your wealth of knowledge and input has been really sincerely appreciated. And to front up for 50 years, that's extraordinary. What was the motivation that you were just going to get out of bed and keep on going out there?
My dad was the caretaker there in the 60s, and I followed him around in the park. Then I helped him a little bit, and I took interest in that park from there ever since on. I used to drag the hoses around the oval, and I said to Dad, one day there's going to be pop-up sprinklers. There bloody sure is.
No, it took 50 years
Yeah.
then. Okay.
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. You know, we've had great support from the council too all those years, and it's been very rewarding. And you know, it's good to sit back and have a look at this lovely oval we've got in Anguston, and the people and the kiddies enjoying that park. Fantastic.
Absolutely, and to activate the space. And
Yeah.
look, these spaces can't be activated without the volunteers and that wonderful support that you guys all put in, and girls.
And
So
I'm not giving in either.
I'm just going to carry it on,
I'm gonna
okay.
carry on, yeah.
Good on you, sir.
Yeah.
50 years, so
Yeah.
thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
Well done. Thanks.
Thank you.
So to all of you volunteers and to the rest of all the volunteers in the Barossa, thank you so much on behalf of Council for your valued contribution, and I know the community acknowledges and appreciates also.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, are we able just to get a group photo very, very quickly with you in here with
Thank
volunteers?
you. All right, I'm sure this is very important.
Do you wanna come up?
Come on in, come on in.
You could be one of those little characters that are in the back of the
Just face
Oh.
the same.
I thought you was getting the ladder for me.
It's the corporate.
You don't need a ladder.
You stand on this side.
Come closer.
Squidge in.
Squish
Come in
in.
here, Steve. Fill this gap here, mate. That's it.
Can I quickly go in? Sorry, I'll quick.
The best is
David, can you go a bit closer? That's it. 1, 2, 3. I do another one without the directors in there. Sorry, Joe.
This isn't embarrassing at all, is it? Right, I'm going to move you all around. I'm going to get you to come forward, Murray, because you know why. Come closer, come closer. Okay, and then we're going to gather around Murray. That's it, come close, everyone. Maury, that's why. Levine, that's it. Bernie, pop your shoulder in behind Levine. Just get a little bit closer. Snuggle across there. Bernie, yep, that way. One step that way. That's the way. Bill, that way. That's the way. Good. Maury, Dave. In you get closer, 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 closer. That's the way. I might, Bill, just step forward a little bit and then across. A little bit more. That's all right. I can see Bernie. That's I
Oh,
won't good. bite.
Ah,
Not hard anyway. All right. That's lovely. Okie dokie. And one more step forward, Murray. Just that little bit. And hold your certificate up. Nice and close. Up.
Listen to her, Murray.
That's the way. Smiling. Okie dokie. Big Johnny cheese. That's the way. Okie dokie. Steve, now, can you go that way a fraction and hold your certificate up? I've just got this. Yeah, that's the one. Lovely. Okay, beautiful smiles again. Murray, cheese. That's it. No one's watching. It's all good. 1, 2, 3. Smile. Thank you.
Don't move, everybody.
Thank you.
Sorry, just
Look,
one
mate,
more
don't move, man.
Oh,
Time to go. You want the steps?
Lovely, no, we're all good, big smiles, everybody, that is just perfect. You've done all the hard work already, that's great. Perfect, thank you so much, well done.
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Members, will continue on with our debate agenda. The 7.1.1, which is the CEO Performance Review Committee on page 68.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Pursuant to section 120 of the Local Government Act, I have a conflict of interest that's related to my employment conditions and review, so I'll leave the meeting.
Thank you. Page 68, this is for council to endorse the terms of reference for the committee, including the allocation of a budget for the committee to conduct an annual review of the Chief Executive Officer's performance remuneration as required in accordance to the Local Government Act 1999. Councillor Johnston.
A question.
Yes.
I note that in line 4, or in the recommendation that it's $10,000, are we sure that that's going to be an adequate sum?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
There's a problem with that, the chief executive or someone. Yeah. Thank you.
Yep. Councillor Schilling.
Yes, given that we did the full review only last year, is it necessary that we do another full review, or are we just using Andrew Reid as a consultant and that's what the funding is for?
That's what the funding will be for, and it's still in accord. Last year, from memory, it wasn't mandatory to do or legislated, but now it is, and so
okay.
that's why we have to keep on doing it this way.
Okay, no problem.
As I understand it,
I'll move the recommendation.
and I need to have there's on part 2, there's appoints Mayor Lange and Deputy Mayor Johnston. I need 3 other.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on this year.
Councillor De Vries, Councillor Hearn. One more, please.
We nominate Councillor Troop in her absence.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Angus?
I'm happy to do it. I did it last year, but
Yeah, okay.
I'm
And
happy to do
Councillor
it if no
Schilling,
one else is available.
I'd prefer to put people in that are present, so. Okay,
I'll second.
okay. So we're all clear? Councillor De Vries, Councillor Hearn and Councillor Schilling fill in those gaps, and you move the recommendation. And it was seconded by Councillor Wee Smith. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Bring the CEO. Page 105, which is the monthly finance report as at the 30th of April 2022. Any questions?
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved Councillor Breeze, seconded Councillor Johnston. All those in favour? Carried. Item page 108. 7.2.2 is an application for approval to join the Vine-In Proprietary Limited Board of the Directors pursuant to contract of employment.
Should just
CEO.
organise them so I stayed out there, hey?
Sure.
Pursuant to section 120 of the Local Government Act, the conflict of interest that's related to either a pecuniary benefit or detriment.
Thank you.
Office, the room here.
So this report is to seek council's approval for the CEO Martin McCarthy to assume the role as a member of the board. This is required as part of his employment agreement. Any questions?
I'll move the recommendation.
We moved the recommendation. Moved Councillor Johnston. Seconded Councillor De Vries. All those in favour? Carried.
promise I'll stay for the rant.
Page 110, 7.2.3 is the management of facilities, lease and licences, fees and associated community support and development of a new way forward. A lot of information, not a simplistic task in any way, shape or form. Any questions? Questions?
Yes, so I think this is the right one that I've got the question for. So with these new roles that are happening with this new structure, are they short-term contracts? My question is what will happen when, you know, the big projects are completed? How will those people that have been moved into the big project be absorbed back into the business, and how will these new roles all fit together?
Sure. Yep. Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor Schilling. The way that it is structured is that the big project is obviously dependent on getting grants and projects funded. There's no grants or projects funded. They are on short-term contracts.
Right.
So they will cease to have any employment in that area. These roles are permanent or maybe contractual, because they are permanent roles in terms of providing services, ongoing services to the community.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor De Vries?
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved Councillor De Vries.
Seconded.
Seconded Councillor Johnston. Councillor De Vries, you wish to speak to that?
Very briefly, yeah, I had a bit of a chat with Martin about this yesterday because I was really intrigued to see how this works out. My feeling is it's going to simplify the interface between us and the community, and it's going to make it easier for various different community groups to interact with us and to have a point of contact and somebody that sort of, rather than having it spread through a number of hands, one person sort of is across the entire thing very intimately. So I think this is something that is going to work well, and as the CEO and I discussed, of course, if it needs tweaking as we go along, then naturally that'll occur. But I think this is a step in the right direction and all part of the restructure that we're currently going through as well. So I hope everyone supports it.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston?
Only just to say, to reinforce Councillor De Vries' comments and to encourage us to adequately resource this exercise, particularly around the agreement management aspects of it, anniversaries, generation of invoices and all that stuff, so that we sort this out for once and for all. So it's a great opportunity to get on with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried. Next item is on page 140, 7.2.4, which is the Legatus Annual Business Plan and Budget. And this is the draft budget and business plan, which needs to be adopted by the individual councils and information then passed back to Legatus before it's adopted by the Legatus group. Any questions?
Move the recommendation.
Moved Councillor Boothby, seconded Councillor Haybick. Wish to speak to it, Councillor?
I'm to say, and you know, I'm a broken record on this one, that you know we can't complain about the work of Legatus not being aligned to what we need unless we input really well into their process. So you know, we only put, it's a very, very small amount of money we put in, so I'm not expecting to get masses out of it, and I don't think we should keep pointing at negatives all the time about the work that they do, but actually be proactive, work out what it is that we would like to have a group of councils work on as a collective, because that's the point of having it.
Thank you. Councillor Haybick, yeah?
I agree with those comments and also say that I don't think we've got any other way but to be.
No, look, there has been some changes within Legatus too, and I think there's some positive opportunities, as you've indicated, as we move forward in the future.
I just want to note with interest that in the previous document in the consensus agenda that you only need to give 18 months notice now instead of 3 years.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favour? Carried. page 188. 188, which is 7.2.5. This is a request to amend the budget for the playground investment, Uriuk Centenary Park Authority. This is to consider this to increase the budget allocation to undertake playground upgrade. Any questions?
Yes, Mayor.
Question?
I'd like to change the motion.
I'll just go in for questions first.
Okay.
Yeah, councillor Havey.
Just wondering, Mayor, whether we're going down the right track. As far as I know, the money for the playground has not been approved by this council, to my knowledge.
It's just a bit louder, councillor, thank you.
The council hasn't approved the money for the playground, to my knowledge. It's never been before council, so don't we have to approve that money first before we decide when it's going to be built?
CEO?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Correct, councillor Habig, but there's no allocation at the moment, and that's in essence what they're seeking is an adjustment to their budget outside of the normal review processes.
But don't we have to approve the building of the playground and then work out the budget?
In essence, they're asking one and the same.
Okay.
Yep, councillor Boothby.
I did have a conversation with the CEO yesterday. I just want to clarify, it's not clear to me from the report. So there's currently a capital allocation in 23-24 of $400,000 that's non-specific as far as I'm aware in terms of what that could be spent on. So my understanding, just want to clarify my understanding that the board of NCPA are basically requesting, based on their abnormal cash flows, if you will, that they've generated additional cash to actually create a capital budget in 22-23. And then in addition to that, bring that budget forward into 21-22. So I just want to clarify that. And also that if this matter is deferred, is there still the opportunity to have this included in 22-23 as a capital item? Because at the moment, there's only $20,000, I think, allowed in the CapEx budget for NCPA.
CEO?
Through you, Mr Mayor. Thanks, councillor Boothby. So the 407 is 24-25, and that was in the forward estimates as to when debts and other things that were included in the original business case had started to subside and generating additional cash. 22-23 draft budget has this in here. In essence, what they're asking for is an allocation this year rather than next year. So Councillor Havig's correct. There is no allocation for this project. What they're asking for is no different than when we bring something forward as, for instance, doing the topical because I got a photo yesterday, the Stockwell entrance because it was urgent. In this case, they're asking for an allocation this year so they can start the work. If council agrees to allocate it this year, then whatever's left would be rolled over into 22-23 anyway. There is no allocation, that's correct.
Councillor De Vries, then councillor Johnston.
Yeah, just for clarification, my understanding was that the intention was to shift priority from using the money for cabins to moving it towards playground.
No.
I misunderstood that? Or?
So, through you, Mr Mayor, thanks, councillor De Vries, that what NCPR are asking for is a new expenditure. What I've put in the report is, could it be better spent on other revenue producing assets? No, that's my, and the business case was built on revenue generating assets. But no, what the NCPR are asking in essence is for a budget adjustment outside the normal budget adjustment processes to do this work, additional work.
Oh, okay, all right, sure.
Councillor Johnston.
That was my question, but I've got another one. So would the other option be that they pay down some of their debt with the excess capital they've accumulated?
Again, through you, Mr Mayor, thanks, councillor Johnston. I guess the answer to that is fairly broad. There is a bucket of money which is council's. It's how it wants to spend it. And this group, like other groups, this group obviously is a subsidiary of the council, is asking to adjust the budget for that purpose. Yes, the the financial analysis, which is in the document, shows that there is some, that the debt is dragging on longer than first anticipated.
Thank you. Any more questions?
So where do we go from here?
Well, there's no more questions. I'm waiting for a recommendation.
Well,
A motion, I should say.
I would like to put up a different motion that's in there, because some of the comments have been on cue.
Well, just give us your motion then.
Yeah, we'll bring it up.
We'll bring it up. So this is your motion that you want to put, that council approve the request by the Nuriulta Centenary Park Authority to increase their budget allocation 2021-2022 to undertake a playground upgrade and allow for the deposit to be paid in this financial year. That's your motion?
Yes, or it can be adjusted. I'm prepared to adjust it.
I'll look for a seconder. Seconded Councillor Schilling. You can speak to the motion now, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks, councillors. I'd refer you all to the justification letter from Guy Martin on page 212, which I'm sure will give you a better insight into why the board wants to progress with this project. At this stage, the park has bookings of between 30 and 40% for this coming October, and it is the board's ultimate aim to get 100% occupancy in these peak times, and there's many throughout the year. So we can charge a premium rate of $20 per child during these times, which could potentially raise an additional $58,000 per year. So the existing playground is outdated and has not been upgraded for some 25 years, and I think is an excuse for a playground by today's standards. So the parents are looking for better facilities, and the trend in the industry is to look for parks with extra facilities. And this is what the board is trying to achieve. And that's one of the first questions that my wife asked when we go to various caravan parks, is the very first question about playground facilities and swimming pools, etc. So we've already been successful with our en-suites on the drive-through caravan sites, and this would be just another string to our bow, with customers paying for the privilege. So we get a premium on those drive-through sites. People don't actually ever even ask the price, and we're getting about $75 to $85 a night for those sites. We have approximately 60 caravan sites near the proposed playground, and with a premium of $10 a night plus $10 a head for children, this would further add to the income stream, and I think that's what the CEO alluded to. I might hasten to add that this playground is open to the public, and that the return on the investment would be achieved in, we think, around 5.5 to 7.5 years. So this costing would be recouped in that time frame. So taking this opportunity to increase our revenue ability now will set us up to handle the increased costs of managing and maintaining the new assets being built by the council for sport and recreation facilities, with the soccer pitch, etc. And there's more maintenance that the park will do for the council in that area. And the upgrade of cabin accommodation at the caravan park potentially earmarked for the 23-24. So it's only an idea, hasn't been formally put through the board at this stage. But the cabins are 25 years old, and with the modern trend towards what people are wanting in cabins these days, and we've got examples of that at the Riverbend Caravan Park, where they're building them and they're replacing upgrading all the sites along the riverfront, from this year. So it's a common theme. So I'd like to say that this proposal is not in the financial plan for the big project, because we've been told that projects like this are up to the board, as we are a Section 42 committee, as I think that's the correct terminology. So I'm just asking councillors to look at the forward planning that the board is doing and thinking about, and cabins are in that project. We've upgraded other areas of the park, and that's why I think we won the top park for Big Four. And we're just bringing this forward so that we can actually order the equipment to give people and visitors the best in this park for the council. And at the same time, we will be making a return on that investment. So I trusted asking all councillors to support this motion.
Councillor, just a clarification, did I hear you correctly that 30 to 40% was the bookings for October?
That's it at this stage. Yes,
I-
well, the report somewhere there was 85% or 90.
95%.
No, that's not true.
Okay, that's not true.
No, I've confirmed that with Guy Martin yesterday.
So it's definitely no 95%.
No.
Can I just clarify that with the CEO?
Yeah, absolutely, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it's 94.8% for the long weekend, which was the argument that we needed by the long weekend.
No,
Excuse me, hang on, the CEO's answering.
So it's entirely possible both figures are right, because what I asked is what is the bookings for the long weekend, not what is the bookings for the total.
Thank you for that clarification.
that's the thing.
Yeah, we don't need any more. The second, councillor Schilling, sorry.
Yes, look, I'm happy to approve the amended motion. The Centennial Park is a fantastic facility and a sporting precinct that we should all be very proud of as a council-owned facility, and those playgrounds that are currently there are really in need of some upgrade, and I support the Centennial Park Authority Board in their projections and the work they've done on looking at what the priorities are for that site, so I support the motion.
Thank you. Councillor Boothby and then councillor DeVries. Yep.
Just a question to you, CEO, in terms of, so the draft budget the NCPA board have put forward for 22-23 included this amount as CapEx, and they had the financial backing, I'm assuming, for that in terms of, you know, the figures, in terms of cash flow they generated, would have covered that. That's a question. I guess in terms of, you know, so I am inclined to support this motion because we have an NCPA board that we have entrusted to actually manage this facility. I think it feels like quite some time that since this chamber has had, you know, a more strategic conversation about the NCPA as a business in terms of as a tourist park business, and it may be timely to revisit that conversation. You know, the business case is now 10 years old. So I think it's probably a good time to actually revisit all of that. We have now had, probably 4 years of Big Four, I think, in terms of what difference that's made. So in part, I feel like we're not, potentially not sufficiently well informed about the current, status of that park. But why have a board if we're not going to trust them to do their job? Is kind of how I feel at the moment. But the first part of that was a question, CEO, in terms of the 22-23 budget.
Councillor Booth, I think the question was...
The 22-23 budget, the figures they have submitted for that.
It is in next year's draft budget, and I have not seen next year's
projections.
Thank you. Councillor De Vries.
This was
Councillor Johnston.
more a question for councillor Hearn actually. If that motion that you put up there was to occur next month and not this month, while we basically waited for additional information to satisfy ourselves, would that prevent the board from achieving their goals? If we approved it next month, not this month?
Well, I'm not sure what the difference is. The reason that we're bringing it forward, or would like to bring it forward, is that there's about a 4 month delay when we place the order to get it in. We would like to get it in before the October long weekend. I guess people talk about the park through the Facebook and the web page. And the word of mouth is going to further enhance.
Yeah. Councillor, I'll just stay with answering the question.
Yeah, but that's why. Yeah. That's why. If we're going to do it, we would prefer that it be put through now because it's in next year's budget. But that's why we're only from an ordering point of view that we've got the money.
I doubt that from what I understand you'll get it in before October regardless of when you order it. Anyway.
Can I ask a question of the CEO then?
I'll just grab councillor Johnston and then I'll come back.
Okay.
Yep.
So, well, I'm inclined to support this, but I'm anxious that maybe cabins are a better option, and would that generate a better return? We've got no sort of analysis in front of us that suggests that way, and I'm inclined to support what Councillor De Vries is suggesting, that we actually come back to this in a month's time. But you know, in the meantime, I think all we're being asked for is the deposit for this year.
Well, hang on, councillor, it's the questions to the CEO, thanks.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Well, in essence, yes, but once you make the commitment, you made the commitment. So you're out there.
Yeah.
You know,
Cash
there'll
impact
be a penalty if we don't go through with it.
The cash impact is this year.
Yeah, the fundamental accounting of it's nearly irrelevant. You know, pay a bit this year, we'll pay a bit next year. It's the allocation if you want to do that work, and it's no different when staff and or other groups come to council and say, we want to bring this forward, or we now want to do this. It's no different to the two reports, and they're about restructuring some organisation, shades of money. That's what they're asking.
But cabins versus playground.
That was because the business case was built on revenue generating assets, and I've presented what I've got.
Councillor De Vries, you have a subsequent question?
Yes,
Councillor Lee Smith.
I guess it's a follow-up, but I'll direct it to the CEO then. I would still like to have this information. If we can't get it if we agree to go ahead with this prior to getting that information, can we at least get the information in the next month, between now and the end? And I guess the reason, I can give a reason, but now I'll be starting to debate, so can I just get the answer first, and then then I'd like to actually.
Through you, Mr. I've asked for various pieces of information. I've given you what I got. I don't know what else needs to be control.
Sorry.
Question.
Yep. And then slide.
Yeah, just a quick question for the CEO. We've got a bit of information there regarding the specifics of the playground. Have we received any information regarding potential marketing plans or campaigns once this is in place to obviously attract people, or are we just looking at putting the playground in and then waiting for people to come?
Again, all I can tell you is I've given you what I've got, and I've asked for various other pieces of information.
Councillor Barrett.
At face value, I'm inclined to support the motion, but I just find the motion a bit loose, because it's not talking specifically how much money they want allocated to them. I would just like a bit more clarification on how much money we'd like to put into this particular financial year.
The deposit.
Yeah.
The deposit is, yeah.
I mean, I'm not running the meeting. There's a motion on the table, it's moved and seconded.
All right, okay, all right. There was a question. It was a question what the deposit is, so
We
don't know. That's the answer. Okay. Councillor Hayby.
There's a couple of things, I think we're talking about, which year we're gonna have this playground built, and to me it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, the caravan park needs the playground, and the sooner it's put in the better, because it attracts tourism. That's what we're on about, that's what the Barossa is about. So sitting here debating for some time about which year we're gonna put it in, I think it's a waste of time, so I'll be supporting the motion.
Okay, you've spoke to the motion. Any further questions before we enter it? Okay, we'll go into the debate now. And Councillor Barrett, I've taken yours as your debate. Councillor De Vries?
Yeah, look, I'm inclined to support the motion simply for the reasons that Councillor Boothby has pointed out, that if we have volunteers and if we have a board, we should trust that board. That being said, I've been on this council long enough to remember when the board made some decisions that we were not happy with, and we then started to introduce far tighter scrutiny to prevent what was a very expensive series of errors from reoccurring. I am feeling a little nervous that we may be taking our eye off the ball. I'm willing to trust them in this instance. That being said, it's not a blank cheque in terms of trust, so I would like to get the Councillor Hearn has sort of verbally given us some assurances about the financial, that there is some financial modelling. I would like to get that modelling by this time next month if possible. If the board has done that work, I see no reason why would be any particular problem. And if their numbers stack up, that's fine. If they don't, well, then that can guide us going forward into the future. So I guess that's where I'm leaning at the moment. I can still be swayed by others but at this stage I'm leaning towards supporting this, but with a certain level of reservation, because things have gone wrong in the past, and we do have a duty to the broader community. Thanks.
Councillor Boothby.
So some of the decisions that Councillor De Vries is referring to, I think, is the upgrade of the manager's residence and also of the central facility that take, bookings area and the shop, that sort of stuff. And that definitely was, non-revenue generating, investment. I guess there's a couple of things for me. My understanding from the CEO is that the asset upgrade or new asset development for the tourist park wasn't considered as part of the big project work for the Neary Centennial Park master planning. I'll get you to correct me if I'm wrong on that, CEO. So we can then come back to a 10-year-old business case and a board that is doing work all the time. So they're working with Big Four on their marketing. They have advice, I understand, quite regularly from Big Four on that. They also have had an independent report done on the tourist park and what it needs. We haven't seen that stuff, so we don't have vision of that, but we can ask for it, and we can have that conversation with them. So to me, I guess there is a need for revisiting that business case. That I don't think that can be done in the next month, because that's a decent size piece of work to actually look at their asset management plan, look at what needs replacing, look at what needs to be. So what new pieces are needed for that puzzle, where we sit in 2022-23 as opposed to 2010-11 in terms of what tourists want. All that stuff has changed. We're not going to solve all that in a month. So I think if the board have looked at what they believe is the next in priority capital expenditure for the park, then that's the advice that I would like to take, because that's what they're saying to us. However, I do think we are at a time where we need to revisit that whole set of information that comes into us and just become better informed about what's going on at the park, because at the moment we are not as informed as we could be.
Thank you. Councillor Wee-Smith and then Councillor Johnston.
Thanks, Mayor. I am inclined to support this motion here with some hesitancy. I would actually prefer to see it in 22-23. I don't see that there's much difference given we're now halfway through May. But yeah, like a couple of other councillors have mentioned already, I do have some questions and concerns around the information that's been provided, or rather the information that we haven't been provided with. I would like to see by next month's meeting as well some clear plans around the marketing for this. I also have concerns that we have bookings at 95% for the October long weekend, and if this brings all the visitors as it claims it may, where are we going to put all those extra bookings in the caravan park without the cabins? So that's another question. But as I said, I don't actually have an issue with approving this sum of money and building this playground. I don't know that it's going to be done by the October long weekend, but I don't think that's such an issue because we have got 95% bookings for the October long weekend.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston.
I just support Councillor Boothby's comments. I think that we have to trust the board, and I would be dismayed if we demanded a business case that ultimately came to work with our staff at this time. So I'm just going to back off that because I think that's unfair.
Can I just clarify Councillor Boothby's questions?
Yes, okay, just clarification.
Just to clarify, yes, it actually was included in the master plan. Obviously, the master plan for the site is a high-level document, and then based on the priorities set by council, we're obviously feeding that down through the processes.
Any other comments? Councillor Hearn, you can close the debate.
Thank you, Mayor. It was a very good discussion this morning, and I'll take on board all the questions, but the board has looked at this over a period of time. We have had people come in and give the park or the board advice on what we should be doing with the park, and this is one of their recommendations. It will bring more money. Big Four do it around Australia, of course, and you know, because of what the board has been doing, we're being proactive with all the things that we are doing. This is just one of those things that we've taken on board, and it can be a revenue raiser, as I mentioned earlier in my opening remarks, for charging extra premiums. So the October weekend, for instance, would be the first one. Christmas, of course, would be continuing on. So it's an ongoing thing with, and we estimate that it's around about 58,000 based on those projections, and the drive-through sites have added to that, and that's given us more income as well. So the question was asked how we would market it. It's done through our web page, and lots of people do look. You can tell by the number of hits on our web page. So we have been progressive since in the last 2 or 3 years, and I think Councillor Boothby in her time as well knows how the board operate, and we're just trying to do the best for the community and the council with their and I just trust that you will support this motion, and thank you.
Thank you, councillor. The motion's on the screen. Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Next item is 7.2.6, on page 216, which is the Barossa Contemporary Festival, request for funding support.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
Moved Councillor De Vries.
Second.
Councillor Johnston.
Seconded.
I'll just better take some questions before I let you speak to it. Any questions first?
I suppose seek clarification from the CEO, in order to actually include this second lot of recommendations around the live music action, does that become a separate resolution?
Yeah, I'll let Pip, CEO, there was an additional.
We can certainly deal with them, Mr Mayor, as individuals.
As individuals, okay.
If you so
All right, we'll deal with that one that has been moved and seconded. Any other questions before I let the speaker, the mover, speak? Councillor De Vries.
Yeah, it's interesting. This follows on very nicely from the last agenda item. As a result of COVID, this area has been hit pretty hard, as I think all councillors have recognised, and over the last 2 years we have been moving heaven and earth to rebuild our community. This community has been hit pretty hard by COVID, by the problems we've had with China. And we as a council have been very proactive in trying to do anything we can to bring more money into this area. And this is one of those solutions which I think is incredibly valuable, not only because it's not just a one-off, but this is actually going to build a major event that's going to have a high visual impact. Those of us who are here for the workshop would have been amazed by what they're proposing. I've even covered this on the radio, and this got a huge amount of support from feedback from people who I'd spoken to afterwards. This is one of those once-in-a-lifetime moments where the council can embrace a significant event that is going to, this is sort of like, to my mind, going to be bigger for the Barossa than Tour Down Under. I think this is going to be huge. It's going to be at that time of the year where we've got Mad March for Adelaide during the first half of the year. This will deal with the October weekend. This will make us the focus of South Australia and arguably the country. As an arts festival in its own right, it's significant. This is going to pump enormous amount of money into the community. It's going to help with those who've been struggling under the COVID. But more importantly, it's also going to help build brand Barossa, which this is why Barossa Australia is really passionately behind this as well, because this is one of those events which is going to get so many eyeballs on us. This is our version of the Sydney Harbour's fireworks. So quite seriously, it could be that level of visual impact. So I'm very excited about this, and I hope the council support this. I cannot recommend this highly enough.
Thank you. Councillor Johnston.
I just support those comments. Just correct one thing for the record. The televising of the stage of the Tour Down Under that occurs here generates $25 million in equivalent eyeballs on televisions around the world. So it's not a small thing, but this is a different thing, and I think this is just going to be fantastic. So thank you.
You. Any other comments? I'll put that motion and then we'll deal with, there was further information and I should have looked at my notes, but we'll got that motion first. So all those in favour? Carried. CEO, please
Thanks,
explain.
Mr. Mayor. I presented a secondary recommendation. There were two parts to the proposal put to council today. And I have done some additional research based on some questions and discussion that Councillor Boothby and I have had. So I have prepared a secondary motion for council's consideration and circulated it. And we'll just, first one's now being dealt with. And hopefully you've had time to read, and we'll obviously table the clarifications that came from the funding that's from Barossa Contemporary. But the idea of the live music activation, which is an active plan with Council and Regional Development Australia, it was my original understanding that it was really only during the time of the event. That's not correct, so it actually is a 5-month program, and there is greater value, I think, in what I first assessed, so I've prepared an alternative, a secondary motion for you to consider.
I'd like to move the motion, please.
Moved Councillor Boothby and seconded Councillor Louise Smith. Yeah, certainly further complements it. So, any questions with the CEO with regard to that additional? Councillor Boothby.
Thanks, Mayor. So, yeah, I'm very grateful, CEO, for preparing that additional resolution. So essentially for me, this is about making hay while the sun shines, in terms of there's a chance to get both another 20 grand to match the 20 grand and also utilise a fairly extraordinary, as Councillor DeVries said, a once in a lifetime opportunity. We have a live music strategy but no ability to implement it at the moment. So I think that there's a great opportunity for this to be a catalyst, so both in COVID recovery, again, as Councillor DeVries said, but also moving forward in terms of, creative industry, job development, or a whole bunch of other things. This is just a great chance to get off the mark. So yeah, I think it's a great opportunity for us as a council and a community.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Louise Smith. Yep.
Yeah, only to support Councillor Boothby's comments, I agree. I think this is a fantastic opportunity here. We talk about how we're going to invest in the creative industries across the region, and I think these sort of activations are the way to do it. We can see real results. The fact that we are seeking co-funding from Barossa Contemporary makes me feel much more comfortable about allocating this sum of money.
Thank you. Councillor DeVries.
Yeah, I'm pretty enthusiastic about this, as one would expect. I can't think of a barbecue I've ever been to where at some point somebody didn't raise the issue of there's nothing for the youth to do other than play sport in the valley, and this is one of those things which will help. We are a clever community, we're a creative community, and anything we can do to help support that. We do have a thriving musical scene here in the Barossa as it is, and anything that we can do to enhance and improve that. And also, this seems to be the era of inclusion, and yeah, I love sport, and I'm, as everybody knows, passionate about local footy, and I think that, on Saturday afternoons we should hate each other's towns and then fall in love with each other again at 5 o'clock when the siren goes. But we should also, I think, embrace more than just sport, and this is one of those areas where I think we can do that. So this is the council once again showing leadership and demonstrating that we stand for a lot more than just what some think. We have a much wider interest in a much wider range of people within the community, so I hope everybody gets behind this.
Councillor Johnston.
Just a gratuitous comment that this reinforces the need for us to get on with the creative industries, to have a better performance space for this kind of thing. That's ours.
Any other comments? Okay, the motion, as was up on the screen before, this is the carrying on with the in-kind support for the implementation of an agreed live music activation strategy, etc. All those in favour? Carried. Page 240, 7.3.1, which is the Corporate Services and Business Innovation Report, which is the Planning, Development and Infrastructure Act delegation updates to Instrument A. Councillor Barrett,
So move it.
so move it. No other alternative. Councillor Lee Smith. Do you wish to speak?
No, self-evident watching the report.
Happy to speak, Your Worship.
Oh.
As everybody knows, I am I'm passionate about.
Mention the war.
You've got 5 minutes.
Councillor De Vries.
Yes, my passion for this shows no bounds, and I would like everybody to get behind it.
Thank you. All those in favour? Carried.
Can we note that on record, Mayor, that it's the shortest speech?
7.4.1, which is on page 273.
Move the recommendation.
Okay.
Happy to second it.
Moved Councillor Lee Smith, seconded Councillor Barrett. No questions? Okay,
Happy with that.
put the motion, all those in favour? Carried.
I should write it down every.
361, page 361, any questions? This is to do with the Barossa Wellness Wonderland, a festival for the adventurous, and request for support for activation of this Wonderland Wellness Festival, which is predominantly from the Williamstown Queen Victoria Jubilee Park.
I'd better move this.
Big pardon?
I'd better move this.
I move.
Second.
Keep it local.
Keep it local.
I've got a councillor Louise Smith.
I actually had a question before we moved
Oh,
to the
okay.
recommendation.
You have a,
Yeah, I wanted to know, so there's obviously mention made regarding a $5,000 contingency within the report here.
just a bit louder, please, or, sorry.
There's mention made of a $5,000 contingency in the report, in addition to the 10,000 funding. I'm just wondering why we wouldn't just allocate 15,000.
Good point, CEO.
Through you, Mr Mayor. It's an unknown quantity at the end of the day. If you look at their figures, they, we don't know if they need it or not, so.
I've had some conversations with the organisers, and that's why I do ask the question, because I understand initially they were seeking $20,000 from us. Given this is a new event, yeah.
So, through you, Mr Mayor, I guess, well, I don't guess, because I did it. I weighed up the investments in various things. I mean, obviously, we've identified we need some policy and guidelines around all this in the last workshop. And yes, absolutely, but I look at also what we provide to the Vintage Festival and what we provide to other events. So we've won today $50,000 for 90,000 people versus $10,000 for 3,000 people. I'm not wetted on the figure. I was just trying to weigh up something that was reasonable. If you want to give them 20 grand, give them 20 grand. If you want to give them 15 grand, 15 grand.
So that's an alternative.
It's a valuable.
Yeah, well, I was going to put forward the alternative recommendation that we provide
Well,
15,000, but yeah.
I have a mover,
Up to,
councillor Johnston, 10:15, or else we will get an,
I can make a
yeah.
formal
if,
change.
if that's what they asked for, then perhaps, I know originally 5 would be a good contingency, I think.
Are you happy
If
to
they have
move?
bad weather or something goes wrong, I think we should do.
Are you happy to include that in your? Okay, 15,000. I'll get a seconder now.
Hang on.
Seconded,
Well,
councillor.
you've already got a mover and a second.
Second.
So you need the leave for the mover and the seconder.
Yeah, I've just asked them.
Yeah, but you don't need a seconder. 'Cause you've
Okay.
already got one.
Well, no, I actually didn't confirm that I had a seconder. I took a question. My mistake, but the mover and the
Who was the second? Was that me or?
I was
Yeah,
gonna
that
say-
was
Oh,
you.
I'm fine
Yeah.
to have that, yeah, 15.
Thank you. Mover and seconder have
You go to
agreed
20
to
if you like.
15,000.
Oh, okay, 20.
That's a contingency though.
No one likes you.
I should have taken questions first.
Yeah, that's right.
Sorry, just pause with your moving, please. Okay, I'm gonna ask for some questions now to clarify, and then I'll let the mover and seconder speak. Any questions? Yes,
I'll do what we just dealt with.
given now we're going with the 15 sum, should we be providing 5,000 in contingency? A further 5,000, I mean, it's just been mentioned that some would be happy to go to 20, and this is just, I'm not, I'm asking the question, do we need to, is it?
I can't answer that, it's for you to determine, not me. I've explained through you, Mr Mayor, sorry, how I came up with the figure.
Okay, mover, councillor Johnston.
Oh, look, I support the event. It looks to be well staffed and supported, so I think the risks are relatively low, and I think that activating that end of the valley, and particularly in relation to the sort of activities we proposed in the big project for that end of the valley, this is just reinforces it, so I think it's an opportunity that we should support as best we can. Thank you.
Councillor De Vries.
Yeah, very much, and I would add, I guess, further that, again, we're trying to pump this area, get the community's lifeblood back and going as a result of COVID, and anything that we can do along these lines to support the community in that endeavour, I think we should support. I actually like events for the sake of the events too, because they have so many valuable elements of the community. First off, they're not just bringing people into the valley, they're also a celebration of who we are as people, and I think that's something that's overlooked. I like living in the valley because we have events, we celebrate who we are, it's our heritage, it's our lifestyle, it's our community spirit, and it's a way in which we can show to the world who we are, but also it exposes brand Barossa to a wider to a wider group, and that's good for every single person who trades on brand Barossa in the valley, which is everybody. We're very lucky in this community that we have a very low unemployment, and part of the reason for that is tourism, and so anything that can help generate that, I'm in huge support of. Thank you.
Councillor Boothby.
Yeah, I'm very, very supportive of this recommendation, and I think to your point, Councillor Smith, in terms of the potential additional funding that they may need. So wellness tourism has been identified as the number one tourism focus by Tourism Australia at the moment. Adelaide Hills Tourism recently ran a wellness wander weekend of events that was hugely successful, and that actually incorporated arts events, food, like businesses in small town main streets that were not normally in the business of tourism, were in the business of tourism that weekend. So I would love to see us actually capitalise on this again, and it's similar to the Barossa Contemporary in terms of this council has a huge opportunity to not just put money in, but actually put effort in and actually align this to our economic development plan and get the most out of these events for the flow-on benefit. So if there's a chance to both put in cash and in kind in terms of, say Joe Seabrook, some of Joe Seabrook's time, in terms of actually getting even more activation. So don't just say, yes, this event is localised to a certain area, but there's no reason why you can't have spillover benefit in other areas by starting to generate those connections. So connect arts businesses with tourism businesses, connect all sorts of businesses together. It's just a great opportunity to do that. And the Adelaide Hills model, and they had some bushfire funding, so they had a big bucket of cash to play with. We don't have that, but we can certainly benefit from what they did in terms of looking at the types of events that they had and trying to make the most of that. So I'm very keen for us to invest 15 grand plus to get the most benefit out of this.
And just on that point, you're absolutely correct, because I did sit in on the earlier meetings, and whilst the Queen Victoria Jubilee Park is that hub, but it's intended to have a spoke and go out to all the communities and have other people sign up to do things, or whether it's in Mount Pleasant, Eden Valley or Macolta.
Yeah.
That's the whole structure that they're keen to activate. And I guess looking at the Tourism Award, the national awards that I attended, Tasmania grabbed most of those awards because it was all associated around events which are ecotourism and engaging with the wider community, and that's where they kicked all the goals. Councillor Louise Smith.
Thanks, Mayor. Obviously, I am wholeheartedly in support of this. I think, these are the sort of events we need to be getting behind, and I'm particularly excited that this event in particular is being driven by 4 local groups who have got a proven track record to deliver, a variety of events. Seeing the Southern Barossa activated like this just builds on Rural Barossa and the other events we've had down there. And yeah, as I said, or as Councillor Boothby said, I'm happy to invest as much as we can in these kinds of events. I do want to note, someone mentioned the Vintage Festival before, and that, you know, our cash contribution to that is significantly less in the past, and I expect that's going to come to us in the next few months. And I think we need to be conscious of that when that comes to us, that, you know, that is another event that is a part of this community and is just as deserving of significant financial support from this council. Today we've invested quite a lot into two different festivals, one being run by independent people and one being run by community groups. So while I've got the opportunity, I do just want to touch on the Vintage Festival because I know that's going to come to us in the next couple of months, and I think we really need to sit back and think about our priorities and where we want to be investing dollars.
Thank you. Councillor Havey.
I'd just like to endorse what has been said. If we think about Lindop down there, and I have a lot to do with Lindop, they have a lot of events down at Lindop, which is close to Williamstown, obviously. And I do believe that all these events bring people in from other areas as well. So it's not only the people in the town, but it's people from around that area or even the Barossa Valley. So they go well down there, and that's what people are up to today, and the communities. So it's a community event, and we need more of it.
Councillor Schilling.
Just curious, question to the CEO, where does the event funding, is that just come from surplus funds or is that in the budget? Have we got an event allocation?
3 year, Mr.
Will we
Mayor.
lose it out of our community assistance grant?
These will just be additional budgets, so it'll be the
Okay.
cash position of the organisation
Okay.
and the operating position.
Thank you.
Any further comments?
I'd just like to wholeheartedly endorse the event. Marvellous idea.
I can see you conducting a history tour of Mount Pleasant, walking tour.
Happy to.
But I
thought it'd be orchids. When you've got
just don't go on a walk like I did yesterday with the Deputy Mayor, plotting our way to Mount Pleasant. I got scarred.
It wasn't my fault.
Mover and seconder. The mover.
I'll close the debate by thanking everyone for their contributions, and it's going to be a great thing. Let's bring it on. Thank you.
Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Page 392. Any questions that you may have in regard to this item, which is to do with the community development strategy, and this is to endorse the strategy to reform and improve community development, including social inclusion services. Any questions?
Yes, there was, on page 411, it says that the council's contribution to the Drive My Future program is $10,000. It's actually not anymore. That has changed, so could we alter that in that report, please? It's now allocated as $10 per driving session, so it's not anywhere near the 10,000.
So through you, Mr. Mayor, it can absolutely add that to it, but we make a provision.
Oh, we make the allocation.
We make a provision of $10,000.
Yeah.
So the provision is made, okay. Any further questions? There's a recommendation there to endorse the community development as outlined in the attachments. Moved Councillor Boothby and seconded Councillor Haybick. Councillor Boothby.
I just want to congratulate the staff again on it's a huge body of work, and I think it's a good way forward in terms of our ability to help more people and make a bigger difference in the community.
Councillor Haybick.
I'd just like to endorse the report. I go back to my previous occupation, and policing, we used to have community officers. I went out into the general public, and I see this as another avenue for the council to be doing exactly the same, involving everyone. So I fully support it.
Thank you. Any other comments? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. page 436. 436. And this is to do with the Barossa Adventure Station, the relocation of access and egress point. Councillor De Vries, you had your hand up.
Yes, thanks, Your Worship. Councillors will know how passionate I am about laying things on the table, but nevertheless, I would like to move an alternative motion, the wording being that the matter lay on the table pending further engagement with stakeholders, including the landowner, on alternative resolutions.
I'll second that.
Well, moved and seconded.
Okay, so
Well, I think we just don't,
It's a procedural
we
motion,
just,
there's no
it's a
vote.
procedural, so we just,
I don't need to
No.
explain it.
I'll put the
Hang
motion,
on.
Bang.
just hang on. It was seconded, councillor Wee Smith.
Good move. This is nasty.
That the matter lay on the table.
Ending.
Pending formal engagement, I'll give you a written,
And I've got it here because I think you're using my draft.
it looks remarkably,
With stakeholders, including the landowner and seeking alternative resolutions.
reminds me of an episode of Yes Prime Minister where they're reading the same thing.
I think it is, yeah.
Have I got that right?
Mecca.
That the item 7.1 blah blah blah.
Yep.
Lay on the table pending formal engagement with stakeholders, including the landowner seeking alternative resolutions.
I wouldn't lay there too long though.
Well,
He's gonna close the gate.
Good. Okay, I'll put the motion. All those in favour?
so what happens if we,
All those in favour?
You vote against it.
Well,
It's carried. Thank you.
It just buys us some time to have chats with Mr Plush and see if we can find a
Next item.
sensible solution which doesn't require the damage of the.
440. Page 440.
This is John's favourite subject, he's been devastated.
So, the dog registration fees. And this is to consider and to determine the dog's registration fees for 2022-2023 financial year.
I'll move the motion.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded.
Dogs are barking.
I just wanna know on what planet
Moved
dogs are
councillor
trained.
Haybick, seconded councillor Schilling. Was there any questions? You jumped in a bit quick again. I assume not.
well,
Any comments? Either one wish to speak to it?
Councillor Johnston had one.
No,
The fees are,
Councillor Haybick.
the fees are exactly the same as last year, and I don't see any need to go on with it as far as talking too much about it.
Don't worry, I don't have a dog in this fight.
Well,
I've got two.
you back
Seconded.
off it enough anyway.
Wish
so-
to speak? Okay. Put the motion, all those in favour? Carried. Page 447, sounds better. This is the 2022 National Land Care. I have given an alternate resolution, a recommendation.
Bring it up.
You're gonna take all of us?
Road trip.
I'll just put it up, just,
Yay!
I'm so busy that
I
day.
wanna go to Sydney.
And your worship, as we spoke about, I'm more than
Long way
happy
on your
to
bike there.
move that.
Yes.
so what I've indicated is the council note the National Land Care Sydney and that it's available remotely and that council will send a video of acceptance if we receive the award.
I'm moving, yeah.
Councillor Wee Smith, either one can move and second it.
Oh, you
Yeah.
can move it, I'll
You
second
can- I
it.
don't-
Okay, councillor Wee Smith and seconded councillor De Vries. Thank you. You wish to speak?
No, I don't. I think that's self-explanatory.
Thank you.
Oh, it's the other thing, which again, if people are wondering who are listening in, why, the answer is because this is like very close to the period where we're all going in for nomination, and it's unseemly to have people who could potentially get some sort of public profile from this, doing these sorts of events that close to an election. So it's more out of propriety than anything else. Otherwise, I would have actually suggested you do go, because it would have been showing the flag, but I understand your reluctance to do so in this instance.
I think under the
Can't we send a
circumstances.
staff member?
Yeah.
Well, there was other conversations around that, which I think it's best that we go this way.
It's tricky.
Yep. Okay. All those, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Page 460.
449.
449, yes. Yes, 449. Which is the consideration and adoption of the committee's resolution for the Barossa Bush Gardens. There's a recommendation for those minutes. Any questions? Moved, councillor Hearn, seconded councillor Weiss-Smith. Either one wish to debate?
No.
All those in favour? Carried. Now we'll go to the Barossa Bush Gardens Strategic Plan 2022. This is the update on page 460.
Move the recommendation, Your Worship.
I'll just take questions first. No questions? Councillor De Vries moved. Seconded councillor Schilling. Councillor De Vries?
I'm very happy with what they're doing.
Councillor Schilling, you wish to speak?
No, thank you. Just thank
Any
you
other
to the
comments?
staff for the work.
All those in favour? Carried.
Move we go into confidence, Your
Yes, we now move into a confidential item, and this is a request for further treatment options, Mingy Road.
Seconded. Seconded.
Seconded councillor Johnston. All those in favour that we go into confidence? Carried.
Good job.
All good. Members, there is a couple of things. Firstly, I fail to formally welcome Amanda to the seat. So you've been here for the whole meeting, so I'm sure you'll come back next month. Welcome.
She was frightened that we were going to get
But
in.
with her welcome, there is a farewell. So Matt, you leave us Friday. My apologies, I can't join you for lunch. My wife has taken priority over your farewell. But Matt, on behalf of council, thank you very much for your contribution, your involvement in this council, in the community, and the manner in which you've gone about it. Extremely professional, and we do sincerely thank you, and wish you all the best for the future.
Thank you.
And I look forward to seeing you on the road somewhere.
You will. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
And it'll be you passing me, I'm sure. Just yeah.
Thank you. And thank you for your support in the chamber as well. I came in without much local government experience, and I'm very proud of what we've achieved and what the team's achieved in that time frame. So I go with a little bit of local government in me. So thank you very much.
Good day.
Worship Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to add to that. Matt, one of my most enjoyable days was that day that you and I spent when we went out and when you first arrived here. And I remember one thing that new councillors might not know, but Matt was instrumental in getting the tree registration happening, and the state of the street trees in pretty much the entire Barossa is as a direct result of conversations that we and Simon had. And I was banging on about trees for so long without us ever getting any sort of structural reform of the process, and Matt has achieved that, and you've changed the look of the valley, probably forever. So thank you so much for that. I will miss you. I think you've been terrific in the job. Far better than your predecessors. So.
Yeah.
That means there was one between him and me. Sorry.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo those remarks. I've given Matt a hard time as a councillor.
You give everybody it.
Yeah, but you're allowed to do that. But anyway, I'd just like to thank you, Matt, for all the things, and hope all those loose ends are tied up before Friday.
They will be.
Yeah, they will be, but he is one person that's actually got back to me as a councillor, and I let that be known in the community. So well done, and just wish you all the very best for. But if you do want to come back, we could whisper in Martin's ear and see whether there's an opening.
Councillor Hayvick and then Councillor Boothby.
Yeah, Matt, I've got the same words, in that you've been a person I've only known you 4 years or so, but I'm not going to say that's long enough. It's not long enough, and I'll be very sad to see you go. And I'd like to say that everyone needs to move around, and that's what you're doing. Is a good job, and you'll do well because you've done well here. Always been the person who's, if I've rung you or sent you an email, always got back, and that's part of being a good manager and shows leadership. So thanks very much.
Thank you. Appreciate your kind words. Thank you.
I was going to say, my favourite memory with you, Matt, I think we had this conversation the other day, is, you sandbagging the Great Wall of Bim in Miri, the 2016 floods until 2 o'clock in the morning. Now that showed to the team that you were going to dig in and be a part of the team as well as lead the team. I think you've done that really, really well. But also I'm so excited that you're going back into the private sector with local government understanding, because that's such a hugely valuable thing. So you came from the private sector and we benefited from that in terms of that knowledge and experience, but you're now going to help local government, exactly, in so many different ways, because you actually understand how it works. So that's a huge thing as well. So yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, that was a good initiation, that store, wasn't it? I always said I wish I was out of the place before we had to test that wall, and I was out of it. You did well, yeah.
Oh, look, I just like to commend Matt. I refuse to be the Minister for Potholes, but on the odd occasion that a ratepayer contacted me, I was just really impressed with the empathetic and caring way in which Matt dealt with people who had concerns about infrastructure on the street. And I'd just like to wish you all the best with what you do from now on. Good on you.
Gee, Matt, after all of that, you won't want to go.
No, thank you all
Okay.
for your kind words. It's much appreciated. Thank you.
Very good. Thanks, everybody. I'm gonna ask you to hang about for just a little moment because Martin's got a very important thing that we need to have a chat about. So with that, I'll formally close the council meeting and hand straight over to Martin.